Hello everybody, my name is CulBlu and I'm bringing out this video of me talking about a board game, and today we will be talking about Stellar Horizons 2. So Stellar Horizons 2 is a, man, I don't even know how to explain this game. It's like a space game. Sorry. Let me go and start a background music here while I try to figure out how to explain this. It is a space game that essentially you're trying to go and explore the solar system, not solar system, sorry, explore the galaxy. There you go. Explore the galaxy, see different things, find different things, do trade routes, settlements. It's kind of a, fight people, solve problems or solve anomalies. There's all kind of things going on in this game. But ultimately, it is a sandbox that you can exist in where you get to do a whole bunch of stuff. It is wargame adjacent. It's not wargame full, but it's wargame adjacent. And it has a lot going on for it. I personally like this game a lot. I'm just gonna say this up front. I like this game a lot. I personally like Shia Legends of Adrift System, which is one of my top 5 games, if not the top favorite game that I have of all time for me personally. So Shia's Legends of Adrift System with the Forsaken Embers expansion, to be more specific, because you need that for the game to be complete. But Stellar Horizons 2 gave me a lot of feelings that Shia Legends of Adrift System gave me. It also felt really cool in its own way. It had this little tech tree going on. It felt really good, really nice, really robust, really well-versed, and a whole bunch of really cool things going on. So I think this game is definitely shooting its way up my top 10 list, even if I don't really think I have a top 10 list, but it's definitely up there for me personally on my first impressions. And I've only played through the solo campaign. And by that I mean I've mostly played through the solo campaign. So take all this with a grain of salt. Oh, also, because I have not finished a full solo campaign, and by that I mean I maybe didn't play like the last 10% of my campaign that I played, and also because I've only played solo, this is only going to be a first impression, it's not a full review, but I will say that this game is definitely firing on all cylinders for me. So let's go and jump into the unboxing, just to show what's in the box. Here we have the board, the tech tree. The tech tree is pretty large. We'll definitely talk about this a little bit later, but the tech tree is pretty large and everybody's trying to get their technology up. We have some player aids, 2 player aids here, 2 rule books, and a scenario book that has some more information inside of it. So I'm gonna put those to the side here. And inside of here we have all the tokens, the little bits and bobs, different bags that hold a lot of different blind draws that you're gonna do. A lot of bags, 12 bags last time I counted. So we'll double check that. This box here doesn't have anything inside of it. I just kind of have it in here for, I don't know what reasons, but it's in there, sure. This is the money. This game does come with paper money. So if you like paper money, this game has it. This little paper money that you kind of rip off, and it's just in the denominations of 1, 5, and 10. Sorry, 1, 5, 10, and 20. Space dollars, so you can use that for your space money. This is in the billions, B for billion. So pretty cool stuff, but I don't want to use paper money. I use metal coins because I had them. So these are my coins that I used to replace them. These are just 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, and I have some 50s in there as well. So it just felt nice to have metal coins. Just over here to the side. Here we have the cards that are in the game for technology. So in addition to the tech tree, you also have technology cards in the form of fleet cards and genetic cards. They have tiers 1 through 3 for both categories, and you can use these to help augment your faction that you're playing to become more unique, have more powers, do things like make it easier to terraform, do things like give yourself the ability to have extra ships out that are above the cap, and do things like making your explorations easier, all kinds of fun stuff to augment how you exist in this game. Over here we have our factions. There are 7 different factions in this game. I'm not going to talk about many of them. I will talk about the consortium because that's the one that I played, and I'll bring them out for an example later on. But that's the different factions, 7 different factions. They all are pretty unique in the way that they play. At least that's what I read from reading their abilities and after playing the consortium. Here we have a container that I just have all my ships in. You do not need a container like this for this. This is the GameGenic Token Silo XL. This video is not sponsored. I just happen to have this and the pieces to do so. If you do want to get one of these, I do want to state, I'll say this very briefly, I do want to state that they come like this, as in this arrangement, not this arrangement. If you want to do this situation, you're going to need a few more token silos, and I don't think it's worth the cost. This is about a $25 expenditure, by the way, just that by itself. You could just use a simple tray, a little token counter tray. These work perfectly fine. I just happen to have this, so I did this instead of that, so I upgraded. Okay, cool. All right, enough of that. Okay, But I have all my different factions out of here. All 7 are in here. And finally, we have our map tiles. These map tiles will be displaying the galaxy, and they'll just kind of fit together in a certain orientation that's explained in one of the books. And you just kind of put the galaxy out there and you interact with it and do stuff. So yeah, okay, cool. So that is what's in the box. So I will move all these bags to the side, and we will discuss some things about the game. So before I get into kind of a full spiel on what I like, what I don't like about the game, more robustly, actually, no, not before. Let me go ahead and talk about that now, because this is going to take me a while to explain this part. I do not like the rulebook. I'm just going to say that up front. The rulebook, I think, is not good. It is not good. It is not organized in a way that is very reasonable to follow if you're trying to learn the game purely from the rulebook, and I find that excessively frustrating. It has every bit of information that you need in it. So between the player guide and the rulebook, everything is there. Everything is there. That said, learning this game through the rulebook was a very painful experience. Mainly because misinterpretation of the rule. Some of it's a skill issue on reading context and seeing stuff. So I'll take credit for that. I'll take my hits where they are. But I do want to emphasize that I do not like the rulebook for this game. It has all the information there. I want to give it credit where credit is due, but I don't like it as far as how it's laid out. So I'll talk more about that way later. For right now, I'm just going to go and explain some concepts of the game, so then we can kind of get into the rants and ramblings later on. So for right now, this is not a full rules teach, but this is going to be talking about some of the rules and some of the components, how some of the things function, some of the mechanics, I should say. So starting off with this, zoomed in too far. Starting off with this tech tree. So looking at this technology tree, we have 3 different sections, and there's a whole bunch of stuff connecting to it. We also have a tracker up here to keep track of our round and our century and our round that we're in, our decade. So we have 2 little markers for that. We also have a little section down here for our initiative that we can play up to 7 players, determines who has initiative order and what. And that's what that is. So here's our technology. If we zoom in a lot closer, we can see that the technology has different things on it. So using the physics section here, for example, we have the name of the technology, the cost of it. So it costs you 10 physics to get this technology, or 10 physics resources. To unlock this one, and the effect of this one is that it allows your REs to move ×2 instead of initial of ×3. I'll explain a little bit more what that means after I take a sip of water here. Okay, whoop, that's loud. So what does that mean? So this technology, this is going to get into explaining some of the faction stuff. Sorry, the player ship stuff, I should say, not faction stuff. I'm just going to use these 2. So we have these 2 containers here full of stuff, and I'll explain what these are in a second. I'm going to start with the consortium, which is the one that I played. In the consortium's little container, I have some dice. I have the ships here. These are the settlements, and these are the markers for technology. So as I unlock the technology, I put my little marker here to show that I have that technology. There's a catch-up mechanic as well, where if I have the technology but the blue player doesn't, then the blue player can buy this technology for $3 off because somebody has already innovated and found out the technology, so it makes it a little bit easier to get it. The person who's first to do it though will get an IP, and an IP or influence point. An IP basically can count as $1. You can convert, or you can cash it in for $1 a piece per IP you have, I should say. You can also spend 1 IP to get 2 of the resource that you're doing the tech for. You can also use it for some other stuff like plus percentage on trying to get better initiative. There's a lot of uses for IPs, but the first person to get the technology, as in if you have it and nobody else does at the top of the round, then, or at the top of the buying technology phase, then you will get an IP. So that's kind of that. So you pay $3 more than your opponent, but you get an IP for it, so you get some return. Anyway. The factions have their ships, and the factions ships will have 2 different flavors. There will be what's called REs, or robotic explorers, and then there will be CVs, which are called civilian vehicles. So all factions have the same kind of ships, or I shouldn't say this, the same 2 types of ships, REs and CVs, but they have different numbers of them depending on what they're trying to do. The Starfarers, for instance, they're trying to go out as far as they can and explore. So they have a lot of fast ships that can move a little bit faster than normal. Whereas the consortium, they're more about trade, and our ships just have like more cargo space and stuff and just doing cool things like that. So REs are robotic explorers and CVs are civilian ships civilian vehicles, or no, sorry, crewed vehicles. I keep saying civilian. Why I keep saying civilian? Crewed vehicles. That's what the CV stands for. And this technology tree will explain how some of these things are augmented. So for instance, when the RE is traveling, if I do not have this technology yet, my initial is ×3. That means that my travel will be ×3. I'll explain what that means here once we finish talking about some of the other things tech tree touches. The CV ship, it will have, oh, sorry, where is it at? Oh, right here. The CV ship will have a ×5 movement modifier, and then also malfunction rates. Malfunction rates are basically when you do certain rolls, when you do exploration rolls, you roll for malfunction. If you roll this number or lower, in this case 30% or lower, then something bad happens. In the case of REs, they just explode, they die immediately, and you get some kind of compensation for it, which I'll talk about the compensation later, but for the most part, they just die immediately. For CV vehicles, their malfunction rate is higher, so it's 50%, so 50-50 chance that you'll have a malfunction, and they'll take damage based on how they malfunction. What I mean by that is that if you roll below this, equal to or less than this number, you take 1 damage, and if you roll less than 10%, so 10% or 9% or 8% or less, or so on and so forth, you will get 2 damage instead of 1. So that's how that works. And the health on the CV, on the crewed vehicles, the health on these crewed vehicles works by the maximum amount of damage they can take is equal to their level. So this CV vehicle with 2 damage will be dead. This CV vehicle with 2 damage will still have 6 health left, if you will. But also every damage will reduce its effectiveness. So here's a damage token. You can see that if this ship had 2 damage on it, its war power in the triangle is less than 2, and its exploration power in the circle is less 2. So the more damage you have, the less efficient you become, so on and so forth. All the other factions have the same exact stuff. I'm not going to explain it for everybody, but I'm just going to explain it for these guys. Okay, cool. All right, now that we got that all settled, let's go ahead and use these ships for our example. Yeah, let's use these ships for our example. And we'll put this tech tree here to the side, like so. And we're going to just look at this little board here. So I'm going to go ahead and set this board roughly how it will be set up in the normal game. And that's going to be with the tokens placed. So when you have the initial board set up, you're going to place these tokens out on locations. And these locations, or this is going to be the explore token, sorry. You're going to place explore token. So for this one, I'm putting an explore token of engineering because this is an engineering sector. This sector here is a physics sector, so I put a physics of 5 there, and it'll always start at 5. This one's a biology one, so I put a 5 there. This one's a physics one, so I put it there, and the other ones we're just going to pretend they're there. Sol, which is where we start from. You can't put any bases, but we start there. All of our stuff starts sourcing from there, I should say. So we're just going to assume that we're in a game state such that these are the ships that I have. Now, we're going to assume that we're in a game state. Actually, okay, let's not assume. Let's make this realistic because I want to follow the tech tree here. There we go. We're going to assume that I have these particular ships, and I think you will have these particular ships. Oh no, not Guildmaster. You have Sapphire. Sapphire is one of your starting ships. Here it is. You will have these ships plus 2 more at the start of the game, campaign and everything. Check your scenario to see what you start with. But for here, we have my ships. Now, let's say that I want to have 2 of my ships go over here and 1 of my ships go over there. Let's say I want to send my RE over here, and I want to send my CV over there, and I want to send this CV, actually, I want to send this CV up here, and send this, hold on. I want to send this CV up here and this CV down there. Now you might be wondering, hey, CulBlu, why are you worrying about which one goes where? It's because of what I want to do for my example. So that's why. So now that I've done that, I've declared my movement, and this will be during the, I think, phase 6 of a round. So every round you'll go through this list of different things that you do. If you're playing the campaign, you do the stuff that's in the blue boxes too. If you're playing just the scenario or something, you follow the scenario rules, and then you check here for other stuff for your reminders. But we're doing movement, which is this. So now that I've declared that those particular ships are moving, I will check to see how far they're going. Actually, let's change this up. I'm gonna move this ship down here just to kind of expand on my example. Actually, no, I take it back. Where's my... All right, so I'm sending this ship down here, I'm sending that ship over there. Okay, so my starting examples, all these ships, all 4 of these ships were starting on Sol. I've dispersed them in this particular manner, and now I'm gonna check to see how long it takes for them to get there. So I'm going to use the RE here first. This RE is an RE. I look on my little table here. My REs have an initial movement modifier of 3. So I moved 1 space total. So that means that this is going to be at 3. So in 3 rounds, this will finally show up here in Alpha Centauri. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this RE. This RE moved 1 space. It's going to have a 3. And then I do the same for my CVs. My CVs are a ×5 modifier. So I'm going to, this one moved there. Actually, I'm gonna use this one. This one moved 1, 2. So 2 spaces. So it's gonna be 5 × 2. So it's gonna be a 10. So we're gonna just do 2 5s. There we go. So we got 2 5s like so. And then finally, we're going to do this one. This ship, this CV2, has a blue flame at the end. The blue flame means that it moves faster such that you get to pretend as if you had 1 tech higher than what you have. So instead of being a ×5, it's a ×4 in this case. Even though it's not a ×4 and don't have the technology, it just moves faster. So this one's going to be at a 4. So it probably would have been wiser for me to move this ship down here instead of that one, but I just wanted to do this for my example. Okay, there we go. And that's how that works. That's how movement works. And I think that's really cool because you can see in a few rounds when things will show up and you have all those things going. Now you might have noticed that I had dice in this particular little container for each player. Every player has their own color dice, which I've added to the game instead of using the counters. And these dice are simply just keeping track of the movement. So instead of doing what I have here, I would actually just use my dice instead. I just want to show what the markers that the game came with. And the rulebook suggests that you can do this too. I just took them up on the offer because one looks nice on the table to have different color die all over. You can see everything like that. But also it's just a little bit simpler to keep track of with D6s. I guess you can use other things like spin down counters, but the movement doesn't typically go that high. Like a 10 is pretty excessive. 10 rounds is a lot to have your ship locked up for. But anyway, so that's all that. So let's go ahead and fast forward and just pretend that we are 3 rounds ahead. So from here, we're just going to assume that we've moved through 3 rounds. These 2 ships have arrived. This ship is down to 1. This ship is down to 7. Like so. And, oh, that's not 7. 7 like so. And now we can get on to what you do in action. So I'm going to go ahead and do the explore action. And the explore action is one of the base actions in the game. So what you do in an explore action is first you declare which ship. So every single ship can do an explore action. Every single ship that's there. So these 2 ships can. This ship is still in transit. This ship's still in transit. So it can't do anything right now except for stay in transit. Excuse me. So I'm going to start with this RE. I'm going to go ahead and do an explore action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm exploring in Lumen 16. I'm going to go ahead and roll. This is a 10 for the purposes of this D10. So this is a 10 that I just rolled. And I'm going to add up some numbers. So I'm going to check first my exploration number, which in this case is 2. I'm going to add it to the explore marker here, which is 5. And I'm going to add it to here, the location, which is the bonus, the built-in bonus of +2. So in this case, my total is 9. I'm going to add my die value of 10 here. So it's going to be 19 total. And now I'm going to check to see for every 10 that I have, excuse me, for every multiple of 10 that I have, I'm going to check to see if I get I'm going to check to see for every multiple of 10 that I have. So in this case, I have 19. I have 1 multiple of 10 is what I'm trying to say. And that allows me to get a successful survey there. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the bag here, in the bag of my physics here, the physics bag. And I'm going to draw one of these tokens. Okay, there we go. Boom, I drew a token. Now these tokens are secret to everybody else, but you can look at them all you want. Other players, they don't get to know what that is. They don't have the privilege of being able to know what that is. I got a 3, so I'm going to go ahead and put that over here to the side. So you can see I have a 3. Actually, we don't need all of this showing this scooch. Okay, there we go. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm also going to do a secondary thing of I'm going to check to see if I get a second success in the situation. So the way I do that is I would normally roll this die, but I'll just add another D10 in this game. I'm going to roll a D10, and if this number here that I just rolled is equal to or less than, once again, equal to or less than my remainder from my previous roll, then I get it. So in this case, my remainder is 9 because I got 19, so 9 is my remainder. If I rolled a 9 or lower, I would get a second success. So in this case, I do get a second success. So I get another little token, and I got another 3. Cool. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and do what's called a malfunction roll. The malfunction roll is I'm essentially going to roll these percentage dice. With these dice, the max they can be is 99. The lowest they can be is 0, 0. And what that means is that the double zero on this die is not 100, it's actually 0. And the 0 over here is actually 0, it is not 10. So I just want to clarify that for everybody. So let me roll these 2 percentage die. And what I'm checking is I'm checking to see what percentage I rolled. And I'm also comparing to the vehicle. So I have an RE here, and my RE has a malfunction number of initial 30%, because I do not have this technology for 26%, it's initial 30%. If I rolled a 30% or lower, then it will have a malfunction. And when REs have a malfunctions, they just blow up and die immediately. I do get a piece of compensation. I do get 1 free engineering token if they do fail, if they do blow up. So I get 1 free pool from the engineering bag, but I will have to rebuild that to put it back out later. In this case, it survived. It got a 47, so it's good. And that is the first half. The second half is I'm going to check. The player aid has this, but the rulebook has it too. And I'm going to check to see if I have a successful survey. So in a solo game, a successful survey is if I have the total that I got that round. So in this case, I have 2 3s, so I have 6. If the total I got that round is this number or better, then I have what's called a completed survey. So in that case, a completed survey is going to trigger a few things. The first thing a completed survey is going to do is it's going to reduce this number here for the explorer down to 4. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to let me draw a world from my worlds bag here. So I'm going to draw that, and I get to put it in here. And that's only if there are empty spots here in the world, or if the spots are filled. Oops, sorry, what was that? 1. Or if the spots are filled. That's not 1. If the spots are filled, if they're less than 12 population, which is just the cutoff number here for a well-populated world, then I get to still draw from the bag. So I'm going to draw from the bag, and I drew a 6, so I put it right there. And then finally, I'm going to do another percentage roll for checking for what's called anomalies. And sorry, I'm trying to straighten this. Anomalies are essentially, oh, I rolled the wrong die. Sorry, it's confusing. Anomalies will show up if I roll a 20% or less. In this case, I rolled a 55, so nothing happens. If an anomaly does show up, I'm going to draw an anomaly from this anomalies bag, which I'll pull one out just to show it. Let's say I rolled an anomaly. I would draw an anomaly from an anomalies bag. I'll put it here on the location. You can see here it has a name for it, and it has some stuff that you need to do, and it has some restrictions. In this case, you're not allowed to build bases here until this is dealt with. And then the person who found the anomaly will get an IP. In this case, I would get an IP if I hypothetically rolled for the anomaly. IPs, as I mentioned before, can be used for a few different things. They can be used for money. They can be used for victory points. They can be used, or not victory points. They can be used for money. They can be used for increase your percentage, for initiative checks, and they can also be used for 2 of a single technology when you are purchasing technologies. So if I have 5 IPs, for instance, I can cash in those 5 IPs to count as 10 physics counters. So I just want to explain that part. But that's an anomaly. I did not roll anomaly, so I'm gonna, and then people can collectively deal with the anomaly if they want to. So you can work with your opponents to take this out, to work on this, or you can do it by yourself. And this number of 9 is augmented by the number of players in the game. So in this case, this is not a 9, this is a 10 because I'm playing solo. Actually, I think that's how it said. Let me double check. You know, we're just gonna go with it. But it's augmented by the number of players. So if you're playing a 2-player game, this is an 11, not a 9, just to let you know. And that's how that works. So I did not roll for I did not roll successful in some anomaly, so I don't get that. So I'll put that back. And that's how that works. Okay, now after that's done with the survey, I can go into this one. I can do a survey for this one. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to roll all my dice at the same time. Speed things up. I rolled a 69, nice. A 69 on my RE over here, and then I have a 6 plus 3, 9 plus 2, 11 plus 5, 16. So I have a 16 total. I rolled a 2 here on my secondary rolls, and that's less than 16. So I have 2 successes here on the green. So I will go into the bio here, and I will draw 2 of these because I got 2 successes, like so. And then I check my total. It is more than 2 between these tokens that I have gotten on the single survey for this one. So that means that this is a successful survey. I'm going to flip that. I'm going to do my anomaly check first because I want to. I rolled an 80. And then I will draw a world to put in this location. And I drew this one, which is a nice 14 planet of H. And that's kind of how that works. So those are two different concepts. This is not a full teach. I just wanted to explain those parts just to kind of prime us for my frustration of this game when it comes to the rulebook. That all flows pretty well. That all is very, very formulaic. That all is, you know, it's kind of do this, and then do these things and kind of keep going with the cycle. And yeah, the game just kind of flows when you have stuff like that. Yes, I can see this being kind of a mess because theoretically, when you're playing with multiple players, this is all happening simultaneously. So what I mean by that is that let's suppose in this situation that the blue player, who's also in this game, and let's throw somebody else, let's throw a yellow player in here too. Let's assume that the blue and the yellow player are here as well, and we're all on that same place in Lumen 16, and I have my initiative orders higher, so let me just go ahead and set it up here since we can see it. Let's say I have initiative 1, yellow has initiative 2, and blue has initiative, where's blue? Blue has initiative 3. So let's say that this is what the initiative track looks like. What will happen in this situation is that I, with a higher initiative, get to go first. Let's assume that I had successful survey. So in this case, a successful survey with a 3-player game, assuming it's a 3-player game, would be 3. So I need to get 3 total completed value or higher. So we're gonna say that I got that. That means that this is going to be reduced, as in disappear. It's going to become a victory point for me at the end of the game. And then I get an IP for finishing the last exploration there. And then my opponents will still get to explore for this round, assuming that they were exploring. And they will also do the same thing, following or going with the yellow player. They'll do the survey. They'll get +0 for this one. They'll still get this +2 and plus everything else. If they succeed, if they get a successful exploration, they'll do the same thing, draw tiles, anomaly roll, all that fun stuff, you know, malfunction stuff. And the blue player will also get to do the same thing. And I say that I can see that being a big mess because the game wants you to do that all at the same time. But if you do it all at the same time, it kind of clashes. So it's a little bit weird because the game suggests that you can do that all at the same time. But there's an initiative order that you're supposed to do these in, so it's like, it's kind of a little bit weird there. That's a minor thing. I can see being very messy in a bigger game, and definitely making the phasing of the game go a lot slower than playing with 1, 2, or 3 players. If you're playing with 7 players, I can see that being a nightmare. Just my thoughts personally, but that's how that part works. At least that's from my interpretation of the rules. I haven't played it, so I don't know how it fully plays out. But okay, cool. All right. So we're gonna go and zoom out. So I can now continue, or sorry, so I can now start, I should say, not continue. Now I can start venting about this rulebook. So I mentioned before, kind of in almost exhaustive details already, that the rulebook is frustrating, but I want to explain why the rulebook is frustrating. Now that we have some semblance of understanding of how some of these mechanics work with surveying and with flying and stuff, the flying mechanic wasn't too complicated. You know, it was pretty straightforward. Just kind of move your counter, multiply it by the distance traveled, and that's kind of it. But when it comes to doing the exploration, that was the part that I really didn't know very well. And going into this game blind, trying to learn how to play the game on the fly, going straight into the campaign instead of doing scenarios, because I was like, I'm not playing through 15 scenarios. I'd rather just play through one long campaign than 15 small scenarios. That's the speed that I was moving at, personally. I really didn't want to go through and just play through scenarios just to learn how to play the game. I just wanted to play the campaign. That ended up with a situation for me to where I ended up playing about 5 different campaigns. And when I say 5 different campaigns, I just want to clarify, it wasn't that I played through the game 5 times, so I played 40 hours of the game already, but I definitely did start playing through the campaign my first understanding of how the game worked. I had a major rule incorrect, and then I just said, you know what, it's only been an hour, let me just restart. So I restarted, and then my second playthrough, I learned a major rule I was playing wrong the whole time. I was like, shoot, darn it again. I'm like an hour and a half in, let me just restart. And then the third playthrough, similar concept, except for I just started to want to do something that I was completely ignoring before. I wanted to start doing settlements, but I didn't know how that worked. I read the rules on how the settlements worked, and then I said, okay, where's my planets? So then I read the rules on how the planets show up, and I was like, shoot, I've been messing up that rule this whole time. And then I started over. And then 4th playthrough, similar concept. 5th playthrough, similar concept. Similar concept towards the end. I finished it mostly, like 90% of it. I just kind of got to the point, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and pause, and I think I got a good understanding of things, and I'm just going to go ahead and do my first impressions video. So that's where I decided to just pause and stop playing. But even then, I still learned that it was a rule that I played majorly wrong. Fun fact, I've recorded this specific video. This is my 5th time recording this specific video because in doing the video, I learned, at least last time, the 4th time. The first 2 or 3 times were just too rambling, so I wanted to give it more structure and explain some of the rules first before I got into my not funness with the rulebook. But my last recording that did this, which was an hour long, I ended up having to wipe because I learned in explaining how much I didn't like the rulebook because I misunderstood things. I learned that I had a rule incorrect, and I'll point out which rule that is. So, cool. Now that I've kind of primed the pump here for all of us to get ready to hate the rulebook, let's go and talk about the rulebook. So the rulebook, there's a rulebook and there's a player's guide. The player's guide simply has things that should be in the rulebook, and the rulebook has things that are mentioned, but just kind of not really concisely mentioned. So we are definitely gonna zoom in so we can kind of focus in on what I'm referring to here. So let's go ahead and bring it to the page here. So in the rulebook, it has the explanation for the campaign. And as I mentioned before, I didn't really want to do the scenarios. I just wanted to jump straight into the campaign. So I just kind of skipped all this, kind of, glazed over all this. By glazed, I mean just looked at it really briefly. And then I jumped to the campaign. Now in the campaign section, which, wow, I've used it so much I just jump right to it. In the campaign section, we can see just the setup. This is the setup for it, the campaign setup. And one of the sections here says, lay out the map in exploration markers 5 of the specified type for each system, biology, physics, and engineering. So I just wondered, okay, maybe the map was in there. I'm just kind of jumping in. I kind of sped through that first section. Let me go back, because I'm just hoping that maybe it explains or talks about or shows how the map is laid out. And flipping through this, one, I'm looking for visuals, so you can make an argument that maybe I need to slow down and read a little bit closer. And 2, no, at no point in this rulebook does it show how the map is supposed to be laid out. It talks about everything else under the sun except for that. What you need to do, again, I get it, it says it here, new players read this booklet first. I'm not reading this booklet, but new players should, according to this. If you look at here, within this section, it shows the map. This is the map that you use, and I'll read this section because it's pretty short. The map depicts a nearby galaxy out to about 50 light years. The campaign uses the full map set up as depicted below, but many scenarios use smaller sections. So that would be great if this was in the rulebook. That's part 1. Part 2 is that for this one, if we go back to here, we see that it says number 5, make a pool of the world tiles and set aside these number of tiles, these 4 different type of tiles, this number of those, worlds to add later during the terraforming phase. Okay, so set those aside, and then the next says make pools of tech markers by type, make a pool of trade goods, and make a pool of anomalies and separate events. So by context clues, I can kind of figure out what a pool is, but I just really want to know what is a pool, because for this one, for the worlds, it said remove some. So am I supposed to remove some from these 2 or for these other ones as well? Are things that are supposed to not go in? Is it just this one that has stuff removed? Also, can you just explain what a pool is? And nowhere in the rulebook does it explain what a pool is. But as you probably have already figured out in the player's guide, it explains what a pool is right here. It's called marker pools. And again, I just want to point out there is a table of contents here. This table of contents did have marker pools right there. I can't use Control F on the table of contents though in a physical form, so that really caused some issues. Again, a skill issue in some regards, but also self-deprecating humor aside, it should be a little bit more clear. It should be like this should be explained over here too. But explains that many markers, for example, worlds, tech markers, trade markers, and anomalies are placed in pools. These are randomly drawn from a pool, a bowl, a cup, a bag, that's what it means by pool, and returned to the pool when discarded unless instructed to remove them from the game. So that is, again, another source of frustration is that the rules are laid out in such a way that it is not conducive to easy learning. It's not that the rules aren't there, it's just that the rules are kind of split between 2 books in different places. And even to that effect, in the back of or towards the end of the player's guide here, it has an example of play. So in the examples of play, there's a little blurb here, which I totally agree with. It says many players like to jump in. So we're including examples here. These may be tough to follow without the rules, but we hope they'll give you a sense of gameplay up front. However, if you prefer to read the rules first, please feel free to do that before referencing these examples. And I will say that knowing what I know about the game already, knowing what I know, like understanding how the game flows, these examples are really golden. They explain a lot of things, but the problem is, I agree. If you are just jumping in and you don't know the rules yet, these examples aren't helpful. These examples don't do anything. The visuals are kind of cool, they're kind of nice, but they're not nice enough. Like it's just a bunch of like, I don't know what this means. Like what is a guild master? It says here the consortium builds CV2 guild master for 9 billion. I'm assuming guild master's a ship. I mean, I guess I could figure it from context clues, but then you go down here and it says guild master moves to lumen 16 and blah blah. Guild master is this and guild master is that. Lumen 16. It's like, okay, all right, this is a lot of stuff you're telling me. It would be great if you could show me through visuals or maybe put a video out or something. That's kind of what I think would benefit a lot, would be some kind of visual besides just a simple photo. And this simple photo is pretty good, I just want to clarify, because it shows where it's going, the ship, the settlement is carrying, and where it's flying to. It shows its marker as far as how long it's going to take to get there and everything. But when you're first learning the game, you don't know that this is why this is relevant. Like why is this relevant? What's the thing? Like what does this mean? And yes, you can read through this and read through all this, but it doesn't really help you fully understand the rules. And the final thing I'll complain about the rulebook, because I can go on for days about this apparently, since I 4 different videos I'll never see the day of light because of some other issues. I will say that even in here, in the rules section, it does have things kind of laid out in a very strange way. So when I was first playing, I mentioned before my first playthrough, I realized that I did a thing wrong that really changed the game, and that thing was exploration. When I first started playing, I read how exploration worked, and I started doing exploration, and I started just kind of moving along and saying, man, I don't understand how things aren't like showing up. I can't find planets. I'm getting these markers and I'm unlocking technology, but it doesn't feel like the game is progressing. So then I kind of came back here and just kind of read, okay, well, I don't understand. And then I read malfunctions are supposed to happen. Like, oh shoot, I have not been doing malfunctions this whole time. And the reason why I say that is because here it just explains how exploration works by itself. But here it says, at the same time as you roll for exploration die, also roll a percentile die to do malfunctions. And it's like, if you can give me some kind of thing to say, hey, also do this, go also do that too. It doesn't, from what I recall, and granted, I could be misremembering, from what I recall, it doesn't say anything in this exploration section that says go check malfunctions next, or do malfunctions next. It just kind of says, hey, here it is, resolve in initiative order, and here's an example. I was like, okay, cool, I got everything I need. I don't really need to see the rest of this because it's not relevant, because it's not happening yet. And I kind of moved on from the rulebook, and that led to, once I found out that, oh shoot, malfunction's supposed to happen, I just restarted the game. And then the next time, I was like, okay, I'm not seeing, like, how do I get planets, not planets, how do I get all these other things to show up? And then I kind of browse over here and see surveys, and it says, if the sum of the value of tech markers earned by a single exploration equals or exceeds the required number, you complete a survey. And I was like, oh shoot, I've been doing that wrong. So then I went back and reset the game, and I was doing surveys wrong. And I did mention before that I recorded this video about an hour long before, that is not gonna see the light of day, but I recorded it before and I explained that I had a thing wrong. While I was doing that video, in the middle of that video, I realized that this says if the sum of the values, and it has it in bold. Again, I'll give credit where credit is due. It has it in bold. But if the sum of the value of tech markers earned is that, then XYZ. What I did before was if the number of is equal to this chart. And I was playing solo, so getting 2 markers is not too impossible. But it makes sense when you're playing a 6 or 7 player game, getting 5 markers at once. That's hilariously near impossible. So that goes a long way to say that I read that wrong. I read that as total number of markers, not sum. Again, that's more of a skill issue, more of an interpretation issue. I'll take the hit for that one. But I just want to point out that this is the frustration, because I was like, okay, cool, second playthrough, all right, I see, I've been doing that wrong, so I restarted the game and did my 3rd playthrough. And on my 3rd playthrough, I wanted to do some settlements, and I checked in the settlement section, which is over here in the beginning, I think. It's in the cargo section. It talks about settlements somewhere in here. Let me look at the table of contents. Nope, doesn't talk about it. It talks about somewhere. Maybe it talks about it over here. And again, this is kind of in real time, because I wasn't planning on talking about the settlement things here. Basis, that's what I'm looking for. So basis, it talks about it here in the player's guide. And again, this is okay. This is a demonstration of what I mean by I'm frustrated by the rulebook. Nowhere in here does it seem to talk about basis. It talks about cargo transfer and trade, which I want to clarify. Cargo transfer and trade, I think it talks about settlements in there. That's why I learned the settlement thing about you're supposed to have planets that are supposed to be there. It's like, how do you get planets? Where are the world's coming from? And I'll explain that link in a second. But the fact that this book talks about bases and this one doesn't is a little frustrating. Let me see what it says about bases. It says bases here. Yeah, you build bases by dropping off settlements. Any number of settlements of a single faction in the system constitutes a base. Yeah, okay. So it talks about bases in here, right in that section, which is nice. You know, it's fine. And like I said, I think I learned about it through here. I just want to see if I did. I don't remember. Let me go back. Yeah, it talks about it here. So it does talk about it here, because I don't remember seeing the basis thing in there. I remember seeing this because I read the cargo transfers and trade, and it says once you have the tech interstellar settlement, you can buy settlements. So you can buy settlements on Earth for the cost indicated on your faction sheet, usually $5. $5 for scenarios, and load them into the cargo bay of ships. And it costs 1 cargo point per settlement. You can't store more settlements. You can't store settlements on Earth. You can also load settlements from your existing bases up to a maximum of 1 per ship to the base and all those other things. So it kind of explains how settlements work and says to build or expand bases, simply drop off settlements from your ship's cargo bay in the systems, forming a new base and adding to existing ones. And it kind of explains it. And I feel like, okay, oh shoot, man. Okay, so I'm supposed to drop them off at systems, but like, how do I think it says drop them off in systems that have worlds, is what it said. I don't remember what triggered me to read this next section. Oh, nope, wrong place. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what triggered me to read this next part here for 1.15, where it says draw world tiles, and it says if you complete the survey of a system that doesn't have its world slots filled, draw world tiles from the pool and add it to the system on its one side, unless it says no worlds or unless it has an anomaly that says no worlds. So that's kind of frustrating. Because I read that and I was like, ah, shoot. All right, now I know how I can get settlements, and now I can know how to drop them off, and now I know I'm supposed to have worlds, so let me go and restart. And I did my 4th playthrough, and then I found out I did another rule wrong. I was like, you know, let me just start over. And I played with my understanding at that point of how surveys worked, which, as I explained, was incorrect even then. And it just kind of the rule book is not set up in a way that's very conducive to kind of getting everything you need in one place. And a solution to this, because I don't want to just be complaining about stuff and not talk about a way to fix it or a way to address it, would be to have a section here, or maybe it has it somewhere. Hold on, let me double check before I start offering solutions to things that I already solved. Just kind of have some kind of section that says, hey, when you are doing exploration, do these things, or check all these things. Like just having some section in the exploration section, even say when you do exploration, first do a dice roll, then check for malfunctions, then check to see a successful survey, then check to see if you draw world tiles, then check for anomalies. Like if you just do that and say, oh shoot, okay, I'm supposed to check all 5 of these things for this whole phase. I get it, okay. And then I started reading these other sections and learning better about how to actually play the game, so I don't have to go through these false starts on trying to learn how to play the game. So that I think is very it's very frustrating, because I like this game so much. I do. But I feel like this rule book is set up in such a way that's so aggravating that I can't even bear it. And just to kind of use as a comparison, I want to use 2 different games, both Star Wars: The Outer Rim and Clinic. Here's Star Wars: The Outer Rim, to talk about these rule books and use it for comparison. In the defense of Stellar Horizons, Stellar Horizons did just as much visuals in their rules book, so I do appreciate that their rule book has visuals. The rules reference in Star Wars Outer Rim doesn't have as many visuals. They leave all that up to learn to play. But there's 2 books in this one. There's a learn to play, and then the learn to play, where I'm specifically trying to learn how to play. I can literally just take this rule book, kind of read the overview, and then kind of skip to the sections that are relevant. You know, see the map set up over here. It explains what I'm trying to do in the game, how I win the game. It kind of goes through very logically, step by step, explaining things and talking about things maybe at times that are relevant. Has really bold different sections saying this is the jobs section. It talks about attempting a job, combat, if you have to fight during a job, all different things on how to do the game. And it has visuals galore, has different boxes and stuff. And then later on, once I'm more of a veteran and I kind of understand how the flow of the game works from the learn to play, I can go to the rules reference, which has an index here on the back. And I can jump to the section I want to know. I want to know how combat works. So I can go over here to the combat section. Again, not a ton of visuals here. So again, a good credit to Stellar Horizons because they deserve that. I would like visuals here too, Fantasy Flight. But it just basically kind of explains things piece by piece and has a whole explanation, a few different scenarios, a few different examples. It talks about combat steps, you roll dice, you calculate attacker damage, and uses bold in a way that flows well with my brain, I should say. And it does the same thing of 2 rule books, but it has content that's here and the learn to play is also here. Now granted, it doesn't have the it does not have the map setup here in the rules reference, but the rules reference is a rules reference. Just kind of give it points where points are due. So that's one point that I'll give to one point I'll give to Star Wars: The Outer Rim over Stellar Horizons 2. And then finally, I'll use Clinic. For all those who are watching, you may or may not know that Clinic is one of my favorite board games. I think I said Shia is like my top game. I take it back. Clinic's probably my top game. I think Clinic is definitely higher than Shia for me personally because I just love Clinic and all the variety it gives you. And I'm actually going to order the 7th expansion when it comes out. But Clinic's rulebook is a little bit of a nightmare too, but for the most part, it has a lot of visuals. It has a lot of white space in here, a lot of space between stuff, so you can kind of see differentiate different sections, and that really gives a lot of a boost on readability. It also has different boxes that are pointing to different things in the visuals. It doesn't skimp on the visuals, which I think I appreciate greatly. It shows a full setup of the board for a 2-player game. It says setup example for 2 players. It gives you some information over here for how you set up your boards with your doctors and everything. And it kind of puts everything in places that make sense. Now, I just want to emphasize that I did learn how to play Clinic by first trying to learn from the rulebook, giving up, and then watching Heavy Cardboard explain it. So thank you, Edward, for that. So I do want to give credit where credit is due that I was able to learn the game from Stellar Horizons 2 through a lot of frustration. Whereas Clinic, I just gave up and looked at a YouTube video instead. But the point is that I think that Clinic's rulebook is way better laid out than Stellar Horizons 2. And that's not to say that Stellar Horizons 2 needs to make the rulebook Clinic or Stellar Horizons 2 needs to make the rulebook, Star Wars Outer Rim for Fantasy Flight. But I'm just saying that there's a way to do double books that explain things. And I can see struggles. I can see similar struggles in Stellar Horizons 2 learning how to play that I had, that I also have a Clinic. To the point to where, yes, Clinic is one of my favorite games. Yes, I like playing the game, I like teaching it and everything. But when I was initially learning it, I struggled. The rulebook was not approachable until I was familiar with how the rules worked. And I feel like this is the same exact way, except for they did it in 2 books instead of 1. And it's like, wow. The point of 2 books, in my opinion, is so you can say the rules are over here and the learn to play is over here. So if you want to learn every rule, it's over here. This is exhaustive, talks about everything. And if you want to learn just kind of a quick start, like, hit the ground running, you got this. And I think the last game I was using an example, I'm not going to go grab the box because that box is huge, but Arydia, I think Arydia has one of the best kind of hit the ground running tutorials of any board game that I played, that I can remember in recent memory, I should say. I'm trying to think of other games. Actually, well, I don't want to say John Company. John Company 2nd edition has a better kind of way to do it, but John Company 2nd edition, you can do rolling teaches, as in one person knows all the rules, everybody else kind of learns as you get to it, and it works very well. But going back into Arydia, every player kind of gets their own little guide about what their class does, and they have different things that explains, and it says, hey, we're gonna pretend for the first turn and a half that you're doing exactly what this book says. It explains the combat. It's very nice and approachable. And I think rule books like that. So shout out to Cody. Is it Cody Miller? Is that his name? I might get his last name wrong. I know his first name's Cody. I was gonna say Cody Miller. Wait, I can see it from up here. Hold on. I lied. Oh yeah, it's Cody Miller. I got haha. Shout out to Cody Miller, who is the designer of both Shia, Legends of a Drift System, and Arydia. But shout out to him for having rule books that are approachable. I will say Shia's rulebook is a little bit of a struggle, but this is a different conversation. My point being, Stellar Horizons 2 rulebook is one of the biggest barriers to this game, and I feel like if they can improve on this, it'll make the game a lot more approachable. Or once people start putting out videos on how to play the game and how to do things, that'll help out a lot with adoptions. But I ramble and I ramble, and you can see why this video ended up being an hour those last few times, but I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it there because I feel like I said the same thing 20 different times. That's why I have a lot of problems with the rulebook. So my first impressions are that I love this game a lot. I am going to do another playthrough off camera. I might try to see if I can get one of my friends to do a playthrough with me on camera. Maybe we'll pick a weekend and just kind of do nothing but play this game and stream. So we'll see if that happens in the future. But for right now, I like this game a lot. It's definitely getting up there into like my top top 20, top 15, top 10 list personally. And I enjoy everything that this game offers. I like the experience of exploring things. I like the mystery of trying to, or sorry, the whimsy that exists of trying to see if you can get this to do this, and the kind of min-max you can do with the technologies of having your tech tree go along and trying to see if you can get a better score, you know, punching your opponents with your space lasers, doing all kinds of things that have a lot of fun. Also just traveling around, exploring the galaxy, or yeah, exploring the was it 50 light years of galaxy that we're looking at, and just having fun. And I don't know, I like the idea of it all. I really do want to see how it's going to work in lower player counts. I feel like lower player counts is where I'm going to play it. I do have a friend who's determined to play every board game at max player count, and I don't know why, but I'm probably going to end up eventually agreeing to try to play this at 7 players to see how miserable of an experience that is. But even in those situations of that potential misery of having to play a 7-player game of this, I can see this still being fun. Because you have your progression, you have your technologies, you have your trade you can do between different places. I didn't explain anything about trade, and maybe I'll do a full teach of this game once I get another playthrough under my belt, so I can get some more of the rules fleshed out. But I think this game is really a lot of fun, and I'm looking to experiencing more of it. And I don't know if I can kind of give it this is, you know, my favorite game of all time. Like, I'm not gonna say that, but I will definitely say this is definitely getting up there. So I appreciate this game a lot. I can give it the most glowing of glowing reviews from a personal perspective, and I can play it solo and have a really good experience solo. I play a lot of my board games solo, as you can see, a lot of my playthroughs that I do here. It's not that I don't have friends, it's just that solo is just sometimes easier to do, especially when recording. And yeah, I've enjoyed my experience with this, and I think this was worth it even for just solo. Now the game is expensive. It is a $120 game, so, or $115 game. So do keep that in mind. But I think it's for me personally, it's worth every penny. I can kind of throw into my list of rotations of, you know, long campaign games or just long games I can just have a weekend available, just throw on the table, just fly around, do some stuff, do some trade, blow up stuff, and have fun. So yeah. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and put all this away. I'm gonna go ahead and end my rantings and ramblings and ravings there. Hope this video was very useful. I feel like if you guys are on the fence on getting this game, I do think it's worth getting if you feel like you can commit to playing an 8-hour game. I do want to emphasize I have not played the scenarios. I do not know how that would impact my opinion on the game, but from what I've played of the long version of the game, I do like this a lot. And the fact that it has smaller scenarios that I can play or different rules changes it does, that's just more icing on top of the cake for me. So I personally am very satisfied with my purchase. I'll try to do like a full review once I have a few more games under my belt, as I said before, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all whenever.